Hello, this is the Bible in fewer words. We are Carol and Steve Wells. This is episode 47, Leviticus, chapters 12, 13, and 14. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Carol.
Well, I think today we are going to cover unclean women and leprosy.
Yeah, unclean mothers.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and just dive in.
Okay.
God said to Moses, "If a woman has a baby boy, she is unclean for 7 days." You know, when I had baby boys, I was unclean for maybe 6 hours after the birth.
Yeah, I don't think he's talking about that kind of unclean. I think it's a more permanent thing that when you it's a process that sort of takes a while for God and maybe the husband and the men to process and to come to grips with, so give them 7 days. It's about the guys,
It's all about the guys.
Yeah.
When her son is 8 days old, circumcise the flesh of his foreskin. I'm not sure that's necessary, but God thought it was.
Right. I mean, we've kind of had that before. That's the thing you do is when the boy is 8 days old, you circumcise him. After her 7 days of uncleanness is past, she must continue in the blood of her purifying for 33 days, during which she must not touch any holy thing or come into the sanctuary.
But I'm sure she's taking care of her other kids, preparing food, doing all the other jobs.
Yeah, I think she's allowed to do that, but just don't get near any holy thing. And you are still unclean, I guess. At least you're purifying the blood of your purification for another 33 days. So a total of 40 days you're kind of unclean, I think.
40?
When you have a baby boy.
That's the special number, 40.
It is.
I'm wondering why God, who loves blood usually and smears it over men that he's going to make priests, is not too excited about this blood.
It is strange, isn't it? It seems like it's kind of okay when it's men, but it's not good when it's coming from a woman. In the next verse it says, if a baby girl is born, her mother will be unclean for 14 days.
What?
And she will continue in the blood of her purifying for another 66 days.
Oh my God.
So twice as dirty when you have a baby girl.
That is just ridiculous. And it's discrimination against women and baby girls.
Well, yeah, it does seem like that. There's not much of an explanation for that except for apparently baby girls are less desirable or more dirty than baby boys. It's confusing. It's difficult to understand.
Yeah. After a mother's days of purifying are over, she must sacrifice a first-year lamb for a burnt offering and a young pigeon for a sin offering. I really would like to know what sin has been committed here.
Yes, it is interesting because there has been a sin because we have to have a sin offering for having a child born. Well, maybe it's the way the child was conceived.
The sex.
Maybe it's a sexual thing. Yeah, possibly. A priest will offer her sacrifices in front of God, and she will be cleansed from the issue of her blood.
Oh, well, good.
So we're going to cure the bloody mess of having childbirth by killing animals in a bloody way and sacrificing them to God. It doesn't really seem like that would work too well, but I guess God thinks it does.
Yeah, very bizarre.
That's the end of chapter 12. There's not much to it.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about leprosy.
Yeah.
God said to Moses, "If a man has a scab or bright spot on his skin, he shall be brought to a priest.
The priest will examine his skin, and if he sees a white hair that is more than skin deep, the priest will diagnose leprosy and declare him unclean."
Has he gone to school or some kind of education to figure out if a hair is more than skin deep?
Yeah, I think that would be tough to know. But somehow the priest is going to figure it out, assess the depth of the follicle, and he's going to diagnose leprosy. Of course, diagnose isn't the word that the King James, it's more of a pronouncing him leprous.
If I had a little bright spot or a scab, I would not go to a priest.
Yeah.
It looks a little arbitrary. And does it have to be a white hair? What color hairs are we talking about here?
It says a white hair.
But if a bright spot is only skin deep and the hair hasn't turned white, then the priest will shut the man up for 7 days.
If after 7 days the plague hasn't spread, the priest will shut him up for another 7 days.
If after the second 7-day period the plague hasn't spread, the priest will declare the man clean. The disease is only a scab. He will be clean after washing his clothes. Oh, goody.
But if after the second 7 days the scab has spread, he must return to the priest, who, after verifying that the scab has spread, will declare the man has leprosy and is unclean.
That is a pretty sad outcome. What
Yeah.
happens to people who have leprosy?
Well, we're going to find that out later in the chapter. And this is repeated several different times for different skin conditions. But you always do the same thing. You come to a priest, and he makes a determination, and then you're shut up for a while, and then you come back to the priest. Anyway, we're going to skip the next 30 verses because they're basically a repeat of what we have here.
Thank you.
The next one, though, is really cool.
Yeah, it is. A man whose hair has fallen off his head is bald, but clean. Aren't you happy to hear that, Steve?
I am, yeah. A man that has hair fallen from the front part of his head toward his face is forehead bald, but is clean.
Forehead bald.
Forehead bald, yeah.
If you have hair on your forehead, you are starting to look kind of odd.
Yeah, I think most people are forehead bald. But anyway, if you don't have any hair on your forehead, you're clean.
Well, that's great. If a man has a bald forehead with a white reddish sore, it is a leprosy on his bald forehead.
Yeah, not so good.
Yeah, and actually they don't even give it a test here. They're just declaring it leprosy.
That's right.
Jeepers, that doesn't sound fair. Lepers must tear up their clothes, not wear hats, cover their upper lips, and cry, "Unclean, unclean!" They are defiled, unclean, and must live alone, away from everyone else. Oh my goodness, that sounds like a horrible future.
Yeah, that's sort of the idea of a leper colony, right?
Yeah, so they all live together.
Yeah. Or at least they don't live with anyone else, with the people that don't have leprosy, and they have to make themselves known. They can't wear a hat because that would cover their sores on their head, right?
Yeah.
And they have to cover their lips so they don't expose anyone and say, unclean, unclean.
And they're saying that because they're accusing other people of being unclean?
No, they're saying that because they need to identify themselves as unclean so that others will be warned and stay away.
Oh, and then tearing up their clothes so they look like vagrants and beggars?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, well, that does sound like a horrible life.
Yeah. And the thing is that these are all God's laws. This is actually God speaking in these chapters. You know, he's saying directly to Moses, he's giving him the law directly. And you would think that God would know about leprosy. He would know that it's caused by a bacterium. He would know how to treat it or whether it can be treated. And he'd be able to give better medical advice than what we're getting here in this chapter. But that's what we have.
And it gets worse.
It does. We're going to get the cure for leprosy here.
Yeah.
Okay, garment leprosy. If a garment has leprosy, whether it be woolen or linen, in the warp or the woof, made of skin, green or red, it must be shown to a priest.
Okay, garment leprosy.
Right.
Which is very bizarre that you would have a non-living thing have leprosy.
Yeah. The only thing I think they might be thinking of is somehow infected with the leprosy, so maybe it could spread it somehow.
Oh, yeah, like the Native Americans and the blankets brought over from
like
Europe.
that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then the priest shall look upon the plague and shut up the garment for 7 days.
This is the law of the plague of leprosy in a garment.
All right. So, could be a man, could be a garment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to have the cure for leprosy, God's
Oh.
cure for leprosy. This is chapter 14.
God said to Moses, "This is the law of the leper. If someone has leprosy, the priest will take 2 birds, alive and clean, and then he'll kill 1 bird and dip the live bird in the dead bird's blood." Well, there's a little bloody ceremony for you.
Yeah, he'll sprinkle the remaining blood on the leper 7 times, pronounce him clean, and let the blood-soaked bird fly away.
So
It's kind of a nice picture, isn't it?
Yes, it is. He's going to be sprinkling blood all over as he flies.
Right.
The priest will take some of the blood of the trespass offering and wipe it on the leper's right ear, thumb, and big toe.
Wouldn't you know it?
Wouldn't you know it?
On the 8th day, the priest will take the dead lamb and wave it for a wave offering before the Lord.
Verse 35. When I put leprosy in a house, the owner of the house must tell the priest, "It seems to me that there is a plague in my house."
I hear is God when God puts leprosy in a house.
Yes. The priest will look at the plague on the walls, and if the walls are greenish or reddish, he will shut up the house for 7 days. How do you shut up a house, Steve?
Yeah, like you put a tent over it when you're trying to fumigate it, get rid of termites.
Oh.
We do that in Hawaii sometimes, remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the 7th day, the priest will examine the walls of the house, and if the plague has spread, he will command that the stones with plague be removed, the house scraped, dust removed, other stones installed with mortar and plaster.
Okay, is that the priest's job, you think?
I don't know, that's a tough job. You got to take out all those stones and then scrape the house, remove the dust, and then replace the leprous stones with non-leprous ones.
Well, it's essentially rebuilding the house, it sounds like.
Yeah, and if that doesn't work, the next verse says the priest will destroy the house with fretting leprosy and carry the debris out of the city and dump it in an unclean place.
Okay, that is a bigger job. Anyone that goes into a house with fretting leprosy will be unclean until the evening. And whoever sleeps or eats in the house must wash his clothes. Well, I think you have to do a little bit more than that.
After the house with fretting leprosy has been properly cleaned, the priest will declare the house clean because the plague was healed.
Okay. Once a house has been declared by the priest to be free of fretting leprosy, the following sacrifice must be performed. Get 2 birds, kill 1, dip the living bird in the blood of the dead bird, sprinkle the house 7 times with the bird's blood, and let the blood-soaked bird fly away. This will make an atonement to God for the house, and it shall be clean.
Just like that. Yeah,
it'll be kind of messy, but it'll be
just
clean.
that simple, This is God's law for the plague of leprosy. For leprosy in a garment, house, scab, or bright spot, to teach when it is clean or unclean. This is the law of leprosy.
I feel so enlightened, yes, about leprosy and how to cure it. All right, well, this has been a little long, but we all know now how to heal leprosy.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Okay, see you next time.
Bye-bye.